Isiah Pacheco is the RB10 on Underdog, RB12 on Sleeper, going at 33rd overall in Redraft and 43rd in Best Ball. The unquestioned running back one in Kansas City. The Chiefs, they brought in J.K. Dobbins, took one look at his knees and instead brought back a guy who's failed over the course of his career, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Pacheco, he's averaged over 4.6 yards per carry in both of his seasons, had 44 receptions last year in a team which wasn't at its best. Hayden, I feel like Pacheco's best ball ADP is going to rise between now and the start of the season. Is that what you're expecting?
I have him 28th overall, so I'm well ahead. He's one of my highest drafted players. We've been doing a little series on our show where we have fantasy analysts that just pick any 5 players that you're drafting a ton and talk them up. That's the only point of the show. Many of them have already picked Isiah Pacheco. So yeah, I think that this one will go up, and I think rightfully so. There's a chance he becomes a bell cow, and there's really not many bell cows in the league. From week 12 through the Super Bowl, he averaged 18 expected half PPR points. That would have been RB3 overall if we extrapolated that throughout the entire season. That's a huge sample because it went all the way through the Super Bowl, and that was because Jerick McKinnon wasn't around, and Jerick McKinnon's not going to be around anymore. So they haven't added any depth behind him. And Pacheco has been a frustrating rusher, just like based off of his talent. But I think that he's gotten better and more experience over the last couple of years, and he's earning the trust of Andy Reid. So I think there's a chance where the Chiefs score the most points in the NFL this year, and Pacheco plays 72% of the snaps. And I mean, how bad would you have to be to bust off of that? Especially because the Chiefs also have one of the best offensive lines in football. So yeah, to me, this is like an absolute layup. And this is the kind of the range where I think that the underdog drafters drafting the wide receivers instead of this tier of running backs, I think like this is where I disagree with the most. Like I don't want the wide receiver 2-3 tiers priced next to like somebody who I think is going to be an RB1. So like Terry McLaurin versus Isiah Pacheco, like to me, those are like in completely different stratospheres when it comes to the potential upside. How the hell is Terry McLaurin going to be a top 20 fantasy player this year? I can easily show you how Isiah Pacheco is going to do that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you can make the case for definitely a few guys in that range where there starts to be question marks in the ADP. Rich, where are you at on Pacheco?
I kind of like him at cost. I think there's some concerns around the overall receiving workload. I don't know if he's going to be able to command more than probably sort of 50, 60 targets, whereas other guys in this sort of range, I see that potential high receiving ceiling. But, 43% of the times finished as an RB1 last year. I think there's a lot to love. This offense we know is going to score points, but also what the moves they've made in the offseason, I think, is a real help for Pacheco in terms of, we talk so much about the Chiefs seeing that too high shell and the blanket coverage and teams trying to take away those explosives. Well, they've added the fastest wide receiver ever in Xavier Worthy. They've added Hollywood Brown, who we know can get deep. I think that's going to force even more options out of the box, which could potentially open up rushing lanes for Isiah Pacheco. So, yeah, I kind of like him at cost. I'd say he's properly rated in terms of my thoughts.
If you're finding us for the first time, hit the subscribe button. Loads more redraft, loads of best ball content, and loads of dynasty content right here. We are closing in on 2,500 subscribers. All you got to do is hit that button.